Scores! And the Ballers win! Helena is no longer undefeated!
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
Barons win! Barons win!
Cody Jansen stopped 92 out of 95 shots, including a penalty shot in overtime. Somehow he still only wound up the third star of the game.
You like that?
Jansen has a heart.
You're smoking crack!
It's an Oilers game day. They're down in Arizona to face the Coyotes tonight, who have dominated the past 24 times they've played. I think the tables turn. Don't guarantee it, though. We'll talk about that later on in the show. It's World Hockey Report presented by Lordco Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of Hockey Canada and Team Canada. If you're heading to the rink, Lordco is going to make sure you got everything you need for a smooth ride, from bright white headlight replacement bulbs for increased visibility during early morning or late night commutes to battery maintainers that are going to make sure your vehicle starts when that temperature drops. Visit a Lordco Auto Parts location today for quality service, quality parts, and accessories. Visit lordco.com to find a store near you. On this show in about 20 minutes, we get to Stephen Klinian from Quack Stats, the founder. You know, that's the only analytics we trust on this show, and Stephen always brings the heat. So I'm looking forward to that conversation in about 15 minutes time, and then we want to hear from you. 12:40, 12:45-ish, we'll get to the open line. We'll talk Oilers, Coyotes, we'll talk Sean Monahan, the Flames, whatever you want. That 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, that's all you. Let's head off to the Quack Stats hotline right now, though, and connect with a good friend, Mitch Giguere, KHL video coach out in Torpedo. He joins us from out east. Mitch, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great. What about you?
Doing good, doing good. Happy we were able to connect again before you ended up heading out to Russia. So let's talk about, you know, what you're doing out there. You're still a video coach in the KHL Torpedo. I don't know how to say the name, Nizhnegrad, something like that. I'm not Russian, and you know that. But what's the start of the season been like? How's the team looking? How have they been doing?
Well, we had a lot of new players this season, so it's always tough when you have like a lot of players. We have 4 new imports out of 5. We have I think 4 or 5 new players as well coming from our farm team or trades or free agent. So you know, it's always complicated to have the chemistry and everything going on. Not that we didn't have or we have issue inside the room, not at all. But you know, when mostly close to half your team is new, building, you know, that chemistry, the culture, and everything is always taking more time. So the beginning of the season was, I'll say, a little bit tough under the expectation, obviously, for many reasons. And the last couple of games, we were able to put up some wins, having points in most of the games. So now I think we're get going at the moment. Power play start clicking, PK start doing a better job as well. Forwards are having more success, I'll say. We still have issues scoring goals. Like we possess the puck a lot, we're shooting a lot, but we just can't finish. That's what I mean. I said, like, that's probably our biggest problem. We have the offense, but we just can't get a goal.
Seems like a common problem in the KHL, right? Goals are worth millions. That's the easy saying for guys looking to go overseas, and if you can put up numbers in that league, you are going to be doing fine. Hey, how's the league as a whole looking this year, though? I know in Olympic years, usually I know the teams are a little structured differently. Maybe a couple of teams might get the benefit of the doubt when getting Russian players, stuff like that. You know, usually maybe a few less imports or so. A lot of the focus goes towards building that Russian Olympic team. But what's it been like this year? What's the league quality like?
So usually for us, we're playing 62 games. Last year we played was 58 or 60, I don't remember exactly. And this year we're going to play 56 games because of the Olympics. And we have one more team, Admirals, who took a year off last year. They came back in the league. So we are playing 56 games. And while the Olympics will be on, all the teams are on a break. So I don't know how long it's going to be, but like I think a week and a half long. Every teams will be on vacation, I'll say. But prior to that, some players will leave for the training camp. So some teams will miss their best players. So we will have to deal with. So that's a challenge, obviously. How long they're going to be here? And like, don't get me wrong, you hope the best that your best players can be there, but on the flip side, you still want to have your best players in your team playing for your team. So it's kind of a 50-50 in between. Like, yes, you want your players to go there, but on the flip side, you still want to have them with you. But like, it's not like our team will have 15 players going over there. Like, it's because we have some Russians who's playing in the NHL. They have some good Russians playing in the KHL. So it's going to be a mix and match of the best players and how or what they are looking at or how they want to build a team around.
Now, there's some awesome coaches in the league this year, and I did just hear about Sergei Zubov, so we do send our best wishes towards him. I know he's stepping aside from Riga after one of their best starts in a long time. That's a team that struggled, and he was able to turn it around, but we do hope for personal reasons that, he's going to be all right, his family's going to be all right. But there's also some other big names getting involved in Russian hockey again, like Fedorov, those guys who are, not going to try bring back Russian hockey, but how crucial do you think this is that a lot of these, former superstars are getting involved once again in the KHL and in the Russian Hockey Federation?
You know what? I think it's good and it's bad at the same time, depending on how good he wants to be and what's their main reason behind that. But like the biggest thing for me with those stars, and like I'll just talk about my head coach in Nizhny and the whole coaching staff. Like they all play in the NHL. Like I work with Sandis Ozolinj and Chuby, who played in Vancouver, and Dave, who played in Florida. Like they all played in the KHL and they all played in the NHL. So they can easily relate with all the players of what's going on. Okay, you want to stay here? Here's what's going to happen. You want to move overseas, playing North America? Here's what's going to happen. Here's how everything works. So they have that knowledge that some coaches without that background, I'll say, doesn't have. So for sure, it's for me, it's big. It's really important. The biggest thing for me as a coach is after that, you always try to surround yourself with the best people available, with the best knowledge. But like those names bring more people in at the rink for every single game. That's the biggest thing. People talk about it. People want to see it. They still have like that superstar shining over them. So it's a big plus for all the coaches who start coaching and who start in the KHL and trying to do their best about giving back and teaching players.
For sure. Now, one of the other big moves by the KHL this year is they're getting into the North American TV market with ESPN+. Now, as a coach yourself, obviously you want the most exposure on that league because that could lead to more opportunities for you down the road if people are kind of realizing, hey, this is the level the KHL's at, more eyes on it, more popularity over in North America. How big do you think that is for the KHL, for the league, for staffers to get that extra exposure of ESPN+, which is one of the largest streaming services?
It's always a plus because like, and even me before working in the KHL, like remotely, and now I'm leaving next week over there to work with them. Like, you know the KHL, but you don't know it. Like you don't really watch a game a year. So you just see the highlights and this is it. So now having that exposure, for sure it's big because like you have a lot of North America players trying to like having a second chance over there and coming back the season after because they had a breakthrough. Like let's say Chris Weidman last year, or we have, I don't remember his name, but he's playing for Toronto, the D-man. Who was the second most points in the league last year. So those guys have a second chance to work there, works their way up and coming back. So having the TV channel showing more games is a plus. And obviously, like the game is way different from the NHL. Like the bigger eyes with the time possession, the game is simply just different, and it's teach it this a different way as well. So I think it's a plus, and people will understand. Like, let's talk about the NHL app. That if you want to subscribe to watch all the games, is like 200 something, if I'm right, or around that. And the KHL, if you want to subscribe, it's $69 Canadian a year to watch all the teams. So that's just a plus value for everyone. And obviously, like people will talk about it, and we will have more viewers for every game.
That's huge. Mitch, I know you got to go. Do you got time for one more question? Can I ask you an NHL
Yes,
one?
I got time.
Hey, I got to ask about your Habs. What the hell's going on there?
Well, you know what? I don't want to bash them, but like, let's put it that way. The last 2 years, they've done the playoffs because they add more teams. They allowed more teams to do the playoffs. Because the last 2 years, they were not even in the top 16, not even like, I think, in the top 20. So right there, the expectation was like higher than expected. So if we put it that way, they should not have done the playoffs. So they were just a normal, below average team. So this year, I think it's just a comeback. But on the flip side, here in Montreal, we're saying Carey Price is overpaid and he's not that good and blah, blah, blah. Yes, but let's put it that way. Last year with Toronto, game 6 in overtime. If it's not Price, they're gone. They're dead. Now they're missing Shea Weber, one of the best captain in the league. They're missing Carey Price, one of, like, he's still a top 10 goalie in the NHL, and his leadership is beyond and above everything that we can expect. So you're missing two biggest part in your team as leadership. So that doesn't help as well. On their back end, Edmondson is not there, so that doesn't help. So I think it's just like an everything of things that go sideways. They lost big players like Phil Deneau, like Vorak is, I think, in my own opinion, Vorak is good as Deneau was, but like they lost Tatar, he's a big loss. And like their first line can't get going. Their second line still struggle. Their third line is like hit or miss, and their fourth line was way better last year with Perry and Armia, and I don't remember the center. So I don't know, like for the third year in a row, everyone's just saying that they will not make the playoffs. So if they're still keeping 16 teams, I don't think they'll make it. But if it's like the last 2 years, they're taking 24 or 26, they might have a chance to do it this year again.
Well, it's unfortunate that fans didn't get the full experience of them going on a cup run, but I think you hit the nail on the head. And I guess we'll see what the goal scoring, if it changes once Hoffman comes back. But, crucial pieces out. It's got to be somewhat expected. Mitch, man, I appreciate you hopping on. I mean, you're always just a bundle of hockey knowledge. I'm happy you got another gig back overseas again. So best of luck there, and we're going to have to touch base after again.
Thank you, and have a good one.
Mitch Giguere right there, my guest on World Hockey Report. Always some good stories. KHL video coach, Torpedo. That's the simple name of the team. Nizhny Novgorod, whatever you want to call it. He's in the KHL. You get that point. Hey, if you don't know already, it's Cody Jansen with you live from the Pro Rock Broadcast Studios in beautiful Alberta. If you're just tuning in, follow me on Twitter at Janner31_ and the show at World Hockey RPT. You can join the conversation anytime. If you're watching on 12 Ounce Sports, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, let me know. You got any questions? You want me to ask Steven anything? You want to get on the open line later? Let's connect. Let's talk. Maybe we'll do a giveaway as well. We do have one lined up, and we'll give you that option. That's coming up, 12:40. You don't want to miss it. 12:40, maybe 12:45. We'll let a couple of people hop in the chat here, get that thing heating up a little bit, and then we will do a giveaway. And everyone knows my favorite hockey tournament of the year is the Spangler Cup. Right after Christmas, starts on Boxing Day, and the great people at Sports Travel Tours want you to experience it as well. Check out all the available packages at sportstraveltours.com. We did mention it is an Oilers game day. I'm sure we'll get the thoughts on the rosters for the Oilers, at least from Steven, QuackStats founder. He's coming up after the next commercial break, and we'll dive into it. There's some pretty juicy lines for tonight. And I know if history says anything, I am way out to lunch here, but I think the tides have turned completely, and the odds makers are off a little bit. If you're going to sign up for DraftKings too, use promo code THPN. They're the best, the Hockey Podcast Network. If you miss anything, we had a best of episode yesterday. So you could hear from Chris Versteeg, you can hear from Andrew Alberts, hear from Jason Podolin. All of that's available on our Twitter page at World Hockey RPT, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you are watching from. We are going to step aside, though, here a little early. Let's get Steven on the line. Let's talk QuackStats. Let's talk analytics, because there's so much that I want to know about this season. And I know it's such a small sample size, so we really can't dive into too much of it. But I'm still interested to hear some of his thoughts, what he thinks is going to happen with the NHL season. He's a big Ducks guy, too. So, yeah, we got to harass him. The Oilers win the other night. Let's take a break. It's Cody Jansen, World Hockey Report. We're presented by Lord Auto Parts on 12 Ounce Sports.
World Hockey Report is partnering with Sports Travel Tours to bring you some incredible trips to watch hockey around the world. Sports Travel Tours has been creating hockey trips and tours since 1998. They've sent customers to the Winter Olympics, World Championships, every team in the NHL, as well as the KHL in Russia. And now, for the first time, they've been appointed official tour supplier to the Spengler Cup in Switzerland. As you all know, the Spengler Cup is the world's oldest invitational hockey tournament, set in the stunning mountains of Davos. It's also the best way to spend the time in between Christmas and New Year's. So, cheer on Team Canada in Davos this year with Sports Travel Tours exclusive packages. For information and to book, go to sportstraveltours.com. That's sportstraveltours.com and sign up to get exclusive discounts and trip priority.
NFL fans hungry for a big win this week? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, has you covered. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game, and if they do, you win $200 in free bets. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, it's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. Use promo code THPN. Bet just $5 on any NFL team to win their game and win $200 in free bets. If they win, you win with promo code THPN this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older in New Jersey, Indiana, Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. It's World Hockey Report. Cody Jansen here with you. We're presented by Lordco Auto Parts. Go check them out today, lordco.com. Joined now Quackstack's founder, and he is our tech stats guru, Stephen Kalinian. Joining us on World Hockey Report. Stephen, how's it going?
I'm great. How are you, Cody?
Doing good, Matt. Doing good. Happy to have the chat here. Always a fun time picking your brain. You know we're not analytics guys down to the core, but Quackstats, I get down with that. Hey, for the listeners who maybe haven't heard from you before or who haven't checked out Quackstats, give us the rundown of what that is.
Yeah, so Quackstats is free to use web application where people can track their favorite teams, their favorite players throughout the whole season. We're going to get it running here. It needs at least 3 games to, kind of get the aggregates in. And what we look at is how well the team does when a certain player is on the ice compared to when they're off the ice. And that's essentially what their impact is. So it doesn't look at like a player's goals or a player's like assists or anything like that. It just looks at, how well a team's performing as a whole when they're on the ice. And it just compares it to when they're off the ice.
And explain there's different aspects to it where, there's some with special teams, there's some with even strength, some plus, some minus, stuff like that. Explain the different aspects, I guess, that Quackstats covers.
Yeah, so it's all the game situations pretty much. So if you're looking at even strength, you can just focus it specifically on even strength. And within even strength, there's, the offensive side of the game and the defensive side of the game. So we kind of separate it out. There's also the special teams, like you mentioned. It looks at how well the power play is clicking when, for say, like Austin Matthews is on the ice compared to how often the Maple Leafs score when he's not on the ice on the power play. And the same sort of idea for the penalty kill as well.
So where did this idea come from? I guess, obviously, you've got your WAR, you've got your Corsi, you've got your big ones. But there's also an aspect to Quackstats that I guess I find easiest, and I think most of the people who use it would do, is the whole visual aspect, how simplified it is, and honestly, just how real it is, where you can kind of see the names that are at the top and the bottom and, across that line, and you could go, yeah, that's probably a fair placement for them. Yep, that seems to be their impact. Where other ones, maybe you question it a little bit. Maybe you're looking at a J Fresh stupid number chart, and you're just like, that makes no sense. Like that's just comical that you'd have this guy at a 3%. But where did it really start for you, or what did you see first off, and you're like, I think we can do better?
Yeah, 'cause when I started off, it was just like pretty much Corsi at that point. That was as far as advanced stats went. And even to this day, like you see a lot of numbers, but you don't really understand what those numbers mean. I'm a visual guy, so I like to see it like in context, and I think that's what this brings. You're not going to see a whole bunch of numbers that you don't know what they mean. You're just going to see like visuals, and it's pretty easier to make sense of visuals in my opinion. And it's very simple. It's just like how well the team's doing, like goals scored against, goals scored for, and then how much time they spent on the ice. And everything else just kind of falls into place naturally.
So you said you got to wait for 3 games, so obviously we won't pick your brain for guys this season, but going back to last year or previous years, who really stood out to you? Who's the guy who you're like, I think they might be getting undervalued. I don't care. It could be someone on the Ducks, the Oilers, wherever. It doesn't matter what team, honestly. But who's a guy who you're kind of like, I watch a lot of the games, and I didn't notice his impact, but once you kind of crack down the numbers, his Quack Stats really show his value to that team or, to the league.
Yeah, and I actually spent more time staring at my graphs and Quack Stats than I did staring at some of these guys' games. But a few of them, like off the bat, Connor Garland had a great season, like analytically last year. So did Joel Farabee, Jason Robertson, which we mentioned last time, I believe. A few guys like that. And on the defensive side, also, you don't really notice a guy's defensive impact as easily as their offensive impact. So a few guys like the Tampa third line before the playoffs, I was huge on that. Calgary's Tanev, also another stud defensively, and Zadorov too, which they brought in as well. So I think they have the 2 best. Calgary has 2 of the best defensive performing defensemen of last year on the same team now. And I watched their game.
It all goes off the role they're given too, right? Which I like, where you can't exactly compare a Darnell Nurse to a William Lagesson because you include the time on ice, which is nice. You're not comparing everyone as he played 1 second, so he played 1 second. Like there's a little bit more in depth that goes into it, which I like about Quack Stats.
Yeah, and the whole point of that is to find those, like you said, the underrated guys. Obviously everybody knows the guys who play like 20, 25 minutes a game, but maybe the guys who play, 5, 10 minutes a game don't really get their chance. You don't know how well they're doing, and maybe you don't have enough time to kind of notice that in the game as well. So this kind of aggregates it. It puts all their 5, 10-minute games all together and sees how they're doing like in total.
So I know for the Oilers up here, one of the big pieces that they've kind of lost is Josh Archibald, and he had really good Quack Stats when it comes down to like penalty killing and things like that. So from a special teams angle, I guess how much or how hard is it to really go off of that, because one player doesn't really make a penalty kill, but they can definitely break it. So when you look at some of the top penalty killers or power play specialists in the league, I guess does a lot of the success correlate with their Quack Stats, or is the even strength more, I guess, kind of more important, more valuable?
Well, even strength has more sample size, so it's going to be more reliable, especially with special teams, especially early on. When we put up the special teams, there's going to be a lot of like fluctuation up and downs, as just because they don't play too much. So one goal against is going to make a huge difference. Whereas even strength, if you're playing 20 minutes of even strength compared to maybe 2 minutes of the penalty kill, so one mistake isn't going to be as magnified by the Quack Stats.
For sure. No, that totally makes sense there. So when are we getting involved in goalies? When are we getting some advanced goalie Quack Stats going on here, Steven?
I'm actually working on that right now. I'm looking for ideas. Honestly, I want something. I don't want to just put up some garbage. I love goalies, and I believe, that's one of the key pieces of a game. And right now, it's not there. But I think there's a lot of good analytics on goalies. And the way my model looks at how the impact of a specific player on a team, so that's why it doesn't work on goalies who play like 80% of the game, because you don't have any other, you don't have the team without the goalie to kind of compare it to, unless like the backup plays, maybe 20% of the game. You don't have like that comparison as you do when even like a first line center, he doesn't play more than half the game. A first pair defenseman, unless you're Seth Jones, you don't play half the game.
Darnell Nurse.
Yeah, unless you're one of those guys, you don't play half the game. So there's always that base to kind of compare it to. The team plays without them. Eventually, I guess, for those players.
Okay, since you brought up the D, man, I gotta ask, because people are ripping on Seth Jones and stuff, and like for being an Olympic, and I mean, you're an American, so you can speak to it. Like, are you shocked that Seth Jones, like, people made such a big fuss about this? Like, how do you leave this guy off the American team roster? I don't care if you don't think he's a top 3. Like, this guy can play as many minutes as anyone else in the NHL, and that's so valuable to a coach. Like, if you haven't played the game or if you haven't watched the game for long enough, you don't know how valuable it is as a coach to know that you can double shift a guy no matter what. Doesn't matter if you're going 5 overtimes. You can double shift him and he's still going to give you 100%. It's crazy that Americans rip on that guy.
Yeah, I'm not going to rip on him too much, but I don't think this is a hill you want to die on, Cody. He hasn't looked too sharp so far this year either. It's only been a couple games, but it's not looking too good.
I'll die on it, though, in a sense of one defenseman. Yeah, sure, he's got burned on a couple of goals in Chicago. As a team, they haven't looked that great, though. So are we going to pick out one of the 6 guys on the ice and say this whole debacle is his fault? I don't know. I still think that there is a lot of value in, just being able to be the next man up. I mean, think of a Darnell Nurse in Edmonton, because without him, if you're going to have to play your third pairing, if you're going to have to play Chris Russell for 20 minutes a night because Darnell Nurse can't go every other shift, or because Tyson Barrie can't go every other or every third shift, whatever, there's so much value in having that consistency.
Yeah, and I think for sure he has a spot on the Team US. And I think captaincy doesn't really tell you, oh, he's a top 3 guy, more so as, he's been with Team USA, he's represented them, he's a veteran guy, and that's why we're giving him like a leadership role. It doesn't necessarily say he's the 3rd best guy on the team, So I think we have a lot of talent in Team USA, a lot to look forward to.
Who would you say is the best American D then?
Oh, Charlie McAvoy kind of stands out.
Really? I don't watch enough of him, but when I do watch him, I feel like there's a lot of flaws in the D zone. There's a lot of flaws that I guess, I mean, offensively, maybe he's not an Adam Fox, but defensively, I think that's where I like my D-men. Everyone knows I'm a fan of big, physical, tough D-men. Montreal, Tampa, give me those D-cores all day over Boston, New York, even Colorado.
Yeah, Charlie McAvoy, he plays bigger too, which is really important. There's a lot of big guys, especially at Anaheim. We have a lot of big guys who don't play big, and then we have big guys who actually play big, and even small guys who like play as if they're like 2 inches taller, but like 30 pounds bigger. So that makes a huge impact to a guy who plays with no fear. And I see that with Charlie McAvoy. That's not something the stats can pick up either.
Okay, we'll get back into the team stuff. I still want to get back to the goalies. I know I got sidetracked. And anytime someone mentions Seth Jones, I'm getting sidetracked. But okay, back to the goalies. What's the best analytics on the market right now for goaltenders? Is it like goals saved above expected? Is it high danger chances stopped? What's I guess kind of the pinnacle right now in your mind of goaltender analytics?
Yeah, I think those are the 2 best places to go right now. I know a lot of people have different models for the goal save above expectation. So, for example, if you look at one model, it's going to be like completely different to another model. And this is like, this come up before too. Like, why are these models so different? And it's just what they take into consideration. You really have to dig into what's going inside all their calculation. It's not like straightforward. There's a lot of subjectivity involved. So with that comes, flaws and like holes, and is that really a high danger chance just because it's closer to the net, or does it take into consideration who the shooter is, if Ovechkin's shooting as opposed to Greg Patterson or somebody from the point, taking a wrist shot. So those all make a difference, and those are all accounted for differently in all the different goal save above expectation. What I'm looking into actually is, adding value to the shots where like a team's been hemmed in. I don't think anybody has that on the market yet. That's a problem that the Ducks have faced, for I don't know how many years, but essentially they get stuck in their zone for 2 minutes plus, like 3 minutes, going up to like, I don't know, the guys can barely skate out there, and it's just John Gibson like eating shot after shot, high quality shots, even though like they're maybe from the perimeter or whatnot. But the fact that he's been like going up and down, I'm sure as a former goalie, how tiring that is, and just like it compounds. So, I don't think those analytics take into consideration that aspect of the game as well, like the fatigue and like the mental part of the game. So I don't know, maybe Quack Stats will will figure out something to incorporate all those into have our own goal save above expectation.
That's interesting. That's such a huge thing that people who haven't played the game or don't maybe understand the game as well don't understand. Because as a former player and a goaltender, it's so different. If someone's coming down on just a flat out 3-on-2, your mindset, your mentality is a lot different than if all of a sudden your team's hemmed in your zone and you're just killing a penalty now, and now you're stuck in there for 2 minutes and you face 6 shots. Your body's in a totally different shape. Your mentality's in a totally different shape. So yeah, that's definitely something that should be correlated in there. So you know a little bit more about the mainstream stats than I would know right now for goals saved above expected and all those other nonsense for goalies. Does it calculate who the shooter is? I might have missed it if you said it or not, but I mean,
I don't think so. I don't believe so. No, it takes into consideration. I believe they all take into consideration the location on the ice where the shot was taken, and the kind of shot. Like if it's a one-timer, if it's a backhand, But I don't believe they take into consideration who the shooter is.
Fair, because I've got so many questions, and maybe it's maybe not right for me to judge ahead of time, because I'm thinking like, hey, if a 2-on-1's considered a high danger chance, sure, but how about the one where they just put it right in the goalie's logo? How about the one where they miss the net? Are we giving the goalies credit for that, or a one-timer? Does it matter if it's Leon Draisaitl taking the one-timer or Zach Kassian? Because
they all count the same. They all count the same. Yeah.
See, and if you're just going straight off style, that's a massive flaw. That's huge as an understatement there. Alrighty, Stephen Clinton, my guest, Quack Stats founder. We got to talk about this Pacific Division, because obviously the Oilers are going to win it. There's no doubt about it. They might go 82-0 here. Vegas probably second, although Robin Lehner isn't Marc-Andre Fleury. But what's going on with these Ducks? I mean, is this the young core that you think is going to take them to the promised land in the next 5 years? Should they trade John Gibson and, maybe recoup some more draft picks, try find a young stud in 5 years who's going to be a net? Like, what do you do if you're sitting in the big chair right now for Anaheim?
Ooh, that's a hot seat right there. There's still 3 guys in our top 6 who are like, I would say like kind of stale at this point. Rickard Rakell, Adam Henrique, and obviously I don't want to talk anything bad about Ryan Getzlaf. He's given like 20 years to the franchise.
Write the headline. Stephen hates Getzlaf.
No. But it comes to a point, and I heard Ryan Kessler actually speak about this when he was speaking about Vancouver when he made that switch. Sometimes it just gets a little stale. You're too comfortable. And I just feel like when I watch, some of those guys who were there for like the 2015 run, the 2017 run, it just seems like, they're not as actively engaged in games, like as emotionally engaged in games as like maybe the younger guys like Max Jones, or like Comtois, who just like run in and like start stuff after whistles and like get emotionally engaged in games. I don't know. I just see a huge difference there.
Yeah, that young energy, those fresh new legs definitely play a big factor. Interesting you kind of mention some of those guys like Rakell, where I don't know what their trade value even is right now. What do you fetch for him? A second? Maybe? I don't know.
I would be looking for a first or higher, maybe a first and like a prospect on top of that as well.
Rakell fetches a first?
I think so. Seeing what some like the trade deadline and like the offseason, what people are fetching. I don't see that as
I guess
too far.
Trade deadline, maybe you're fair. I guess compared to offseason trades, that's probably the only reasonable thing. I think it's interesting to see how this plays out with Getzlaf because, and obviously his agent's up here in Edmonton, and from everything that, was kind of being murmured around over summer, was he maybe wasn't too happy to see Corey Perry have all this success and continue to go on playoff runs. And he's like, oh shit, why didn't I leave? Like, why didn't I be that guy who got out there and had some success after Anaheim flopped? Do you think that plays a little part of just how close that Perry and Getzlaf were?
I mean, he did get bought out. It's not like Perry had that option. He didn't have any other option but to go somewhere. He didn't really go out chasing rings either. He signed for Dallas and Montreal, who were not like playoff teams by any means, And, he's just a playoff guy. He's just that kind of guy who, steps in when it matters, like in the playoffs. So I heard Getzlaf and Vegas were close at the deadline last year too. Just didn't happen, but yeah, I would love to see him also to have another team to cheer for in the playoffs.
So if he goes on a playoff run with Edmonton here and the Oilers win the Stanley Cup in 7 games over the Islanders, as I've predicted, are you going to cheer for him? Are you going to be an Oilers fan? Are you going to get an Oilers Getzlaf jersey or what?
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Let's go. I'll send one down to you. No, that's awesome. Hey, give me your thoughts, though, quickly on the Kings also. I know, obviously there's a little bit of a rivalry there. You've watched maybe Cal Peterson a little closer than I have. Is this guy actually the replacement to Jonathan Quick? Because I'm not sold on it.
Well, he's playing better than Quick right now for...
Well, yeah, but Quick's like 50 years old.
Yeah, but I mean, so is Kopitar. He's still putting up 7 goals. Or
different
7
positions.
points
Different positions.
I mean, I guess so. But still, if people thought Kopitar was slowing down, he's not. But Cal Peterson, yeah, I think he's solid. He's probably, I would say, maybe like the second best in the division right now, besides Gibson. I can't think of any other goalie in the Pacific right now who I would pick over Cal Peterson.
You think he's better than Thatcher Demko?
Oh, he's about that level, I would say.
Mike Smith?
He's better than Mike Smith.
Mike Smith just stopped 45 against the Flames, so we'll start the Vezina rumblings again. I guess I would probably pick Peterson over Markstrom, honestly. I just have not been impressed with Markstrom at all. Robin Leonard's very hit or miss. No chance he's better than Grubauer.
Oh, yeah, Grubauer. Yeah, Grubauer was probably number 1, and then Gibson.
I guess I'd put him on par with like a Dreger. Probably.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison.
Although Seattle just got their teeth kicked in by Philly the other night, so maybe we won't talk about their goaltending that much. Hey, what's your thoughts on the Flames this year? I want your honest opinion. Like, is it time that they either make a big splash and go for a Jack Eichel, or should they just fold the tent and trade off and start rebuilding?
I like Johnny Gaudreau. I watched the game yesterday against the Ducks. He was flying, and I think he was the most dangerous guy on the ice. So,
but it's easy to fly against the bad teams.
I mean, I guess so, but I like their team. I think they should give this team a chance. They've added some really good pieces. They've got bigger. They play a fun, exciting style of hockey. I like that big, the West Coast hockey style. And they're a really good Pacific Division team. I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think they'll, give teams a real headache in the playoffs as well. The style game that they play.
Without Jack Eichel, you think?
Yeah, with or without Jack Eichel, you don't even know if Jack Eichel's going to be playing this year.
That's fair. Man, I just want to see Eichel. Like, could you imagine an Eichel McDavid rivalry of a Battle of Alberta?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be incredible. I just couldn't even imagine how much fun that would be. Okay, I got one more for you, and that's Vegas, because Vegas is my question mark this season. They could either end up second in the Pacific, or they could end up second last. I'm still a little... I mean, Robin Leonard's a fine goaltender. Brossoit is a questionable backup. And honestly, they didn't do enough to help their team. They got worse, if anything. So where do you think they land come playoff time?
I think they're still going to be at the top of the division. I can't see them being second to. I can't see them being worse than the Kraken and San Jose and Anaheim. I think they're a solid team. I like you always bash on their centers, but I like Chandler Stevenson. I think he's a really good center. Maybe not the first center all-star, but
no. But if he's your second line center, third line center, you're a cup contender. If he's higher than that,
I don't know, because he plays really well with those guys. Like they mesh very well together. That's a line that like all three players understand like where the other's gonna be. They produce a lot of chances off the rush, which takes a little bit of coordination to do. You can't see lines producing as many like breakaways, as many like 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s as those guys. And he has a lot of speed as well, so he can make up for his lack of skill, or that's probably a harsh way of putting it, but
no, it's fair. He's a Sasky guy. Come on, we're not meant to all be Gordie Howe. No, that's awesome, Steven, man. I mean, we're going way long. Our producer's gonna have to have some fun working this one out, man. I appreciate you taking the time. Again, Pump Up. Where can people go find Quack Stats? Is it all just got to go through the link tree now? Is there a simpler link you've put out for them, and give the socials as well?
It's just the link tree, yeah. And that can be found on my Instagram, handle Quack_stats. And I post like content there as well. I'm trying to get a TikTok up too, but
let's go.
Not sure. I posted a couple videos. I've been looking at like these old hockey cards I've had for like 10 years. I'm just getting a chance to open them, kind of look at them. So I'm just posting those kind of stuff. But I'm not sure we'll be on the TikTok yet. We'll figure something out.
Man, I got so many hockey cards. I was going to go get them appraised, and I'm just too lazy to do it. I don't want to take them all the way into the city. I just haven't done that yet. I just wonder if there's any like gold mines in there. Always interesting. Steven, man, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time as always.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
World Hockey Report is partnering with Sports Travel Tours to bring you some incredible trips to watch hockey around the world. Sports Travel Tours has been creating hockey trips and tours since 1998. They've sent customers to the Winter Olympics, World Championships, every team in the NHL, as well as the KHL in Russia. And now, for the first time, they've been appointed official tour supplier to the Spengler Cup in Switzerland. As you all know, the Spengler Cup is the world's oldest invitational hockey tournament, set in the stunning mountains of Davos. It's also the best way to spend the time in between Christmas and New Year's. So, cheer on Team Canada in Davos this year with Sports Travel Tours exclusive packages. For information and to book, go to sportstraveltours.com. That's sportstraveltours.com and sign up to get exclusive discounts and trip priority.
What we do here is go back.
You guys know I'm not an analytics guy, but I love any time I can chat Quack Stats, the absolute best, simple, advanced analytics. That's coming to you live on World Hockey Report. We're presented by Lordco Auto Parts. Find a store near you at lordco.com or visit Lordco's in-store truck centers at select locations. All right, we just put it out on Twitter at World Hockey RPT. If you're not following us there, you are missing out. I'm on Twitter at Janner31_. You want to win tickets to the next Oilers game? Well, let's get some predictions going in the conversation. I want to see the correct score and either give me how many saves Koskinen's going to make or who scores the game winner. One or the other. I don't care. Whatever you find easier, whatever you think is going to get you those tickets. Get it in the conversation right now. Oilers, Coyotes, that's tonight. Give me the correct score and who scores the game winner, or how many saves will Mikko Koskinen make tonight. I got some odds for this game as well. And if you're going to hit up the DraftKings Sportsbook, if it's in your state, use promo code THPN. But two lines that I really like, and I already placed my bets in this morning. Thank you very much. How are you? That's Oilers on the puck line, -1.5. It's at +122 in some sportsbooks. It's just, I mean, the way Arizona looks to start this season, not pretty. They've got a rookie goaltender making his second start ever against McDavid, Draisaitl, Puljujarvi, Nugent-Hopkins, the best power play in the world. The Yotes are going to take penalties and they're going to get eaten alive. But They can also score some goals. They put up 4 against St. Louis. They're playing Mikko Koskinen. They've had a lot of success against the Oilers in the past 24 games. We'll dive into that in a second. But I would also go with the over 6. If you can get that for around minus 120, go with the over 6. I like that as well. So those are my 2 plays. Of course, tune into Philly Pete. Pete's Power Plays Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, noon Eastern Standard. He's going to have the best plays. But my plays, Oilers puck line, and the over 6 in the Yotes Coyotes game. Alrighty, quickly, let's break down some of the starting lineups for tonight. Mikko Koskinen goes in goal for the Oilers. Lines look a little different now. They're going to split up McDavid and Draisaitl on the road. This is one of Dave Tippett's strategies, kind of the old Mike Babcock way where you don't have last change, so you might as well give yourself the best odds to get one of the 2 on the ice. So it'll be McDavid, Hyman, Puljujärvi, RNH, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, Fogel, Ryan Cassian on that third line. They've been good so far this season. Perlini, Shore, Turris. Is this a Perlini revenge game? Is this a Perlini revenge game where he could come in and put up a hat trick against his old squad? Maybe Tippett's got that key to unlock it. On the back end, you got Nurse and Barry. Of course, no surprise there. Keith Ceci, your second pairing. No Chris Russell. It'll be Slater Cuckoo and Evan Bouchard on the back end. For Arizona, I'm not going to go over their lines, but Karel Vejmelka, he's going to be their starting goaltender. He catches backwards, too. He's a righty, catches on the goofy side, getting his second career start against the Oilers. I'm not sure how well that's going to go. For the Flames, some interesting moves. Adam tweeted it out earlier today. They've demoted Sean Monahan to the third line. He's playing with Milan Lucic, Trevor Lewis. So Backlund slots up with Coleman and Pitlick. Just an absolute blender of the lines. They also waived Glenn Godden. He did clear waivers, so no one's picking him up. So there was a couple other transactions today. We will get to some of that NHL news here in a second. But for the Flames, you got to play Detroit. Now, Detroit hasn't trailed for a second yet this season. Yes, they're 2-0-1. They got an overtime loss against Tampa, which they probably shouldn't have. But that's just how it goes when you're the Detroit Red Wings. They've got bigger issues, if I'm being honest. I think that a good start for them is great, but I think that they would rather have a shot at Brad Lambert or Shane Wright. Not that they're not enjoying the success of Moritz Seider, of Lucas Raymond, our Grindline Pod guys. They're probably like on cloud 9 right now, but it's just not sustainable. It's just not going to last for this team. I can't see it. Give them 3 years and they're a legitimate playoff contender. So it was Barry Boulay from Seattle. Alex or Bar Boulay, whatever you want to go with. I'm not French. He's placed on waivers. I think this is his second or third time being on waivers this year. Interesting there. Good news. This is from Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period. Luke Hughes. Jack Hughes. He's not going to require shoulder surgery. So good news for him. Glenn Godden does clear waivers for the Flames. That's per Elliot Friedman. And the Winnipeg Jets, they've had a little bit of COVID issues. Mark Scheifele's now in protocol, and they're going to move all media availabilities to Zoom. Wheeler's out and ready, as I'm pretty confident Wheeler is out. Hey, let us know your predictions if you got them. Let us know Oilers, Coyotes tonight. I already gave my best bets. We'll break down a couple more of these games. It is a busy night in the NHL. There was only 2 last night. Nothing that crazy, obviously. If you're Philly, you got to be happy. You double up the Boston Bruins. Bruins fans aren't too happy. It's still early for them. That's their second game of the season. You can't blame Swayman. They made a few errors. And for our guy, Zach Medeiros, if you're watching, don't blame Martin Jones this early. He picks up a win against Boston. You're 2-0-1 on the season. Flyers fans, you're laughing right now. This is what you need. And if you're St. Louis, you're on cloud 9. I mean, Binnington's fully back. This team's buzzing. I said it before. I don't think Vegas is the second best team in the Pacific. I don't think so. I don't know who is, but it's not Vegas. I get it. They've got injury problems. Stone's out. You lose Fleury. I don't think Leonard's that guy. I know not every night you're facing a goalie with a 9.77 like Jordan Binnington. He's phenomenal. But I think for Vegas, there is bigger issues and their time has come and gone. I don't know if it's Seattle's time. I don't know. I don't think Anaheim's there yet. Maybe LA makes a little bit of a push. Maybe the Flames figure it out. Vancouver certainly won't. San Jose certainly won't. Arizona certainly won't. But Vegas does not scare anyone. The only team in the Pacific that scares someone right now is the Edmonton Oilers. That's as simple as you can put it. Okay, there is a bunch of games, though, going on. Screw NFL, screw MLB, NBA, all of that junk. All we care about is what's happening in the National League. Montreal, they're at home against Carolina. Jesperi Kotkaniemi, is this a revenge game for him? The Canes are 2-0 on the season. Montreal's 0-4. I don't see things getting better for Montreal anytime soon. As we talked about with Mitch Jaguar, there's just too many holes in this lineup. No Shea Weber, no Joel Edmondson, no Carey Price. You lose Corey Perry. Army is, the fourth line's not the same. They're not getting scoring. They don't have Mike Hoffman. This team stinks. Maybe we'll have to get someone on from Montreal to talk about it, because I don't think you can just flip a switch right now. I think it is time to sell off, say, hey, we went for our run. We were close. They were, 3 wins away from winning a Stanley Cup? That's pretty close. That's pretty close if you ask me. Ottawa's at home against San Jose. Erik Karlsson, welcome back to Ottawa. How are you? I think Brady Tkachuk in the lineup here, and the Ottawa Senators are actually favorites at -105. That seems like pretty good value. I don't know who's in net for that game, but I don't hate the Sens on the money line there. Colorado's in Florida. Spencer Knight's been lights out this year. Colorado, a couple of struggles. Again, they've been dealing with COVID, nothing crazy, but I don't hate the Panthers at home. New Jersey's at home against Washington. The Caps 2-1 to start their season. The Devils are 2-0 as well. Rip Dougie Hamilton a little bit. Mackenzie Blackwood, same thing. I still don't like this Devils team. I still don't think they're a serious contender. I still think they're absolute phonies, and they're probably going to get walked by Washington tonight. The Isles are in Columbus, so they're road favorites there. They got to turn things around, but I don't know how quick that's going to happen. Columbus can still score some goals on you, and if they get goaltending, the Isles are in trouble. They're going to be 1-3 to start the year. Calgary, they're in Detroit. The way that Sutter's shaking up some of these lines, I don't know if that's going to be helpful or not. I don't hate Detroit. Underdogs plus 115 at home. They're 2-0-1 on the season. Haven't trailed for a single second. I'm sorry. I like the Flames, but I like money a little bit better. Go with the Wings on the money line. Nashville, they're at home against the Rangers. I don't need to give my thoughts on the Rangers. Maybe we'll get Ket on one of these times. Talk about him with the morning skate guys. Because this Rangers team, they're on the brink. Shesterkin's good. Lafreniere's good. Kakko's good. But are they going to end up being serious cup contenders? I don't think so. They kind of seem like one of those middling teams to me. They're nowhere close to a playoff team like the Islanders, and they don't have the skill like Tampa Bay. But I'd probably stay away from betting on that game because I don't bet Nashville games. Anaheim is in Winnipeg. The Jets heavy favorites there. Anaheim's obviously played a ton of hockey, but I don't hate that roster. And the way that Winnipeg has been battling COVID, Hellebuck's been struggling. If Gibson goes, maybe a little sprinkle, maybe a quarter unit, maybe half a unit on the Ducks. That doesn't seem like the worst option in the world. Chicago's at home against Vancouver. The Hawks have to turn around at some time. They're at home. Hammer them. Hammer them at home against Vancouver. The Canucks are... no one likes the Canucks. The Canucks aren't a good hockey team. Chicago's a good hockey team that's been playing bad. Hammer Chicago. They're picking up their first win of the year. Flowers getting his first win. He's probably going to pick up a shutout. Seth Jones, easy 1-1. Yeah, I'd go with Chicago. And then the late one, of course, Edmonton, Arizona. I already said Oilers on the puck line. That's a great one. And you got the over 6 against Arizona as well. That's my breakdown of tonight's NHL games. Like it, love it, hate it. If you want to get in on the draw and get your Oilers predictions in for tonight, it's not going to hurt to get them in. Let me know your thoughts. Hey, in the past 24 games, Arizona, they're 16-4-4. No slouch at all. So have they possessed troubles for the Oilers? Yes. Have the Oilers completely changed the depth and the look of their team? Yeah, as well. I think you'd be crazy to think that this streak can continue. What goes up must come down. 16-4-4. That's not sustainable when the Yotes are this big of a dumpster fire. I love the over 6. I love the Oilers -1.5. And I think that's what I will be going with. Of course, if you're into the DraftKings Sportsbook, use promo code THPN. Support our friends there. Download the podcast, the Hockey Podcast Network, anytime. And join the conversation on 12-ounce sports. Be sure to tune in. You got Pete's Power Plays. You got the AM Drive Monday through Friday. The absolute best in sports talk. Not even just radio, TV, everything. They've got it going on. Be sure to go check out sportstraveltours.com. Lordco Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of Hockey Canada and Team Canada. You got to visit a Lordco Auto Parts today for knowledgeable service, quality parts, and accessories. Visit lordco.com to find a store near you. That's going to do it. Another week of World Hockey Report. Next week, we are bringing the heat. A couple of special guests from NHL.com. They'll stop by. We'll talk puck with a couple of bigger names next week. Maybe we'll line up a couple of former NHLers. One thing, and I will say this, I saw a couple other podcast brands have dropped it. The Danbury Trashers thing. Everyone's got Trashers merch now. We can pump the brakes on that. Maybe a little bit. We'll pump the brakes on that. Shout out TNT, ESPN. They're doing great things down south in growing the game. Whether you love them or hate them, the personalities are doing good. World Hockey Report. Let's wrap it up on a Thursday. It's October 21st. Cody Jansen coming to you live from the Pro Rock Broadcast Studios in beautiful Alberta. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Janner31_. Check out the show next week. Same time, same place. Shout out to our social media manager, Eric Krause. Our lead producer, Bryce Buns, Adam Urbantrout as well, who helps out with the show. And Jeff Beck back at the 12-ounce Sports Studios. Until next week, everyone, be kind, be better.